everyone, welcome to another Stencil Sunday for Creator Small Stamps. But before we get started, I would like to show you the new products that we just added to the shop. We got some new chipboards, and these chipboards are just amazing because they look like wood veneer, and I think they are so adorable. These are all our designs, and a Polish manufacturer creates them just for us. These are exclusive and you can get them in our shop, and some designs are already sold out, but they will be restocked in about 2 weeks. Okay, so let's get started. I would like to start with a white card base, and I also cut a panel that is slightly smaller than the card base. And then I used some Simon Says Stamp Sea Glass ink because this is the lightest blue that I have. And I find that the Simon Says Stamp inks and the Hero Arts inks are the best inks to dye your paper. So I just created some light blue paper as a backdrop, and that way you can always get the paper and the color that you would like to have. Then I took out the Snowman Stencils that you can get in our shop also, and I started with the open snowman first and adhered that with some washi tape. You know I love to use some spray adhesive, but this does only make sense for intricate designs. With open and large images like that, the washi tape version is just the best. And then I used some Mali blue ink, also from Simon Says Stamp, and added and inked up two of the snowmen, the thin one and the very, let's say fat one. So we have the big one and the small one, or the big one and the thin one, and I slightly overlapped them. So this was why I moved the stencil after I had inked up the first snowman. So these two guys are friends, and they stand close together, so you do not have to use the stencil like it was created. You can always move it around. Then I used my EK Success powder tool because we will be using some embossing powder today. And I am attaching the second stencil, which has the striped snowman, and I lined that up with the first snowman as good as possible. And then I made sure to adhere that very well. And I used my Versamark ink pad and just squeezed it onto that paper. And then I moved the stencil again to line up the big one, the big snowman. And I masked off the top portion and the bottom portion and also the other snowman to make sure the ink would only be on my snowman. Okay, and then I'm using 3 different embossing powders from Wow. Well, I took out 3 of them. One is Calypso, one is Mint, and one is Evergreen. And they are all different. One is a glitter one is Earth Tone, which has a matte finish, and one is a regular one, which has a glossy finish. And I started with the Earth Tone Mint embossing powder, and then I just added a diagonal line of powder and put the rest back into the jar. And then I used the primary Evergreen regular powder, and then I decided not to go for the glitter because I thought that would just have the difference was too big for me. So I used the Earth Tone Mint again. So we have Mint, Evergreen, and Mint again. And then I used a dry paintbrush to get rid of all the extra that I had, although I used the powder tool. And then I heat set that with my heat gun. And as I said, one of the powders is glossy and the other one is kind of matte. So I decided to add a layer of Clear Gloss Super Fine Embossing Powder, also by Wow. This is a very fine embossing powder, and I love how it melts because you get a very, very glossy surface with it. So I lined the stencil up again, used my Versamark ink again, and moved the stencil. So I repeated the entire process. And then I used my superfine gloss embossing powder just on top of the other powders. And when it melts, it will make all the powder shine. So also the earth tone, which is kind of matte, will be glossy. So there is not such a big difference. And it's even more raised on your surface, so it's embossed a little more. And I think this looks quite nice. I think this is really a nice focal point for your card. Now I can see it's all glossy and shiny, and if you have colors that are only available as an earth tone, that's a way to get it glossy. Then I took out our new stamp set that is called Schöne Bescherung, which is a German Christmas sentiment set. It has lots of sentiments in there and also some tiny images. So I took out that sentiment set and picked a tiny snowflake that is included, and then I used the same Mali blue ink that I used for the snowman and just randomly stamped the snowflake. And whenever you create a random stamped background, I would recommend to not get it all scattered up the place. I don't know if this is the right expression, but I think it looks even more realistic if some of the images are close together. So you have a bunch of snowflakes here, a bunch of snowflakes there, and some just single snowflakes floating on the background. This way you get a nicely balanced background. So now that we finished the panel, this will go onto the front of my card. But first of all, I will be stamping a sentiment from the same set, which says Wunderschöne Weihnachtszeit. That means wonderful Christmas time. I used the same Mali blue ink again, so it all matches up together. And then I used a lot of tape adhesive, so the dimension adhesive, because the paper had warped a bit with all the embossing, and I wanted to make sure that it stays flat and nice. So I used a lot of that adhesive. I put that onto the front of my card, and for the finishing accent I used some glossy accent and just added some droplets for the background. That's the card for today. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you're not a subscriber so far. Thanks so much!